Good day, everyone. I am Mary Cristaniente, and I will be presenting to you the input, interaction, and output in second language acquisition in this video. But before that, let us define first what is SLA, or Second Language Acquisition. Second language acquisition is a scientific discipline that deals with the study of the process in which people learn. For example, acquiring second language. In that process, input, interaction, and output have a significant role. In its current form, the interaction approach includes some aspects of the input hypothesis together with the output hypothesis. It has also been referred to as the input, interaction, output model, and interaction theory. The interaction approach is now commonly accepted within the second language acquisition literature that there is a strong connection between interaction and learning. The interaction approach attempts to account for learning through the learner's exposure to language, production of language, and feedback on the production. So to start, let's talk about input. Input refers to the language that a learner is exposed to in a communication. In all approaches to second language acquisition, input is an essential component for learning, which means it provides the crucial evidence from which learners can form linguistic hypotheses. Stephen Krashen, a linguist and professor at the University of Southern California, proposed input hypothesis, which suggests that language is acquired when learners are able to understand messages they receive. This concept is also known as comprehensible input. In addition, input is also defined as language data which the learner is exposed to, like listening and reading. With this, the following concepts are conveyed. 1. Input is very important to second language learning. Second, input that is conveyed beyond the student's current level but still comprehensible is considered by many to be the best type of input. Third, sometimes easy to understand input is the most effective to enhance fluency. Fourth, frequency of input is important. And lastly, incidental learning can occur as a result of any type of input. Before we proceed to the next one, let us define first the key terms linked to input, where input itself refers to what goes into the learners. This is the process where the learners receive the data of the second language. And the second one is comprehensible input, which refers to what goes in and can be understood. This is when the learners are able to understand the messages they received. And the third one is noticing. This is the act of paying attention to the linguistic features found in the input. This refers to the process where the learners becomes conscious of the linguistic features of the second language. And the last one is intake, which refers to the parts of input that second language learners can actually retain, store, and relate to existing knowledge. Now let's proceed to interaction. Interaction refers to the conversations that learners participate in. According to Long, the interaction hypothesis is a theory of second language acquisition which states that the development of language proficiency is promoted by face-to-face interaction and communication. Similarly to Krashen's input hypothesis, the interaction hypothesis claims that comprehensible input is important for language learning. In addition, it claims that the effectiveness of comprehensible input is greatly increased when learners have to negotiate for meaning. The interaction approach to second language acquisition is the approach which states that it is beneficial for learners to engage themselves in the interaction with the other speakers of that language. In this way, they are immersed in the stimulating surrounding which forces them to communicate in second language. Taking active part in conversation in a second language suggests that a learner has to think his sentence structure before he speaks, even though he has little time to do so. So there are two terms linked to interaction. First is negotiation for meaning, where Long defines negotiation as the process in which, in an effort to communicate, learners and competent speakers provide and interpret signals of their own and their mediator perceived comprehension, thus stimulating adjustment to linguistic form, conversational structure, message content, or all three until an acceptable level of understanding is achieved. Then, feedback occurs during negotiation for meaning. There are two broad types of feedback, explicit and implicit. Explicit feedback includes correction and metalinguistic explanation, while implicit forms of feedback includes negotiation strategies such as confirmation checks, clarification requests, comprehension checks, and recast. So for us to know how to provide feedback to our learners, let's discuss the implicit forms of feedback. So first, we have confirmation checks, which refers to the expressions that are designed to elicit confirmation that an utterance has been correctly heard or understood. For example, asking questions for verification, like, "Is this what you mean?" And for second, we have clarification requests, which refers to the expression designed to elicit clarification of the speaker's preceding utterances, like asking question, "Did you understand?" Third, we have comprehension checks, which refers to the expression that are used to verify that the communicator has understood. For example, asking question like, "Did you understand?" And for the last one, we have recast, which refers to the utterance that repeat a learner's incorrect utterance, meaning making only the changes necessary to produce a correct utterance without changing the meaning. For example, when you hear your students say, "Classmates, please sit down." So, as a teacher, you may correct the utterance of that learner in pronouncing the word sit. So now let's proceed to the last component of language learning, which is the output. So output refers to what comes out from the learners. So Swain states that output may stipulate learners to move from the semantic, open-ended, non-deterministic, strategic processing prevalent in comprehension to the complete grammatical processing needed for accurate production. Output would seem to have a potential significant role in the development of syntax and morphology. Gass and Salinker quote Swain when they say that output may force the learners to move from semantic processing to syntactic processing. What it means is that A learner not only focuses on the meaning of the sentences, but also tries to put the words into some order. Output is also defined as language data which the learner is produced to, like speaking and writing. So here are the concepts of output. First, it promotes fluency and automaticity. It allows learners to notice gaps in their knowledge. It allows students to test, run, or experiment with the language to see what works and what doesn't, and affords learners the opportunity to get feedback on their language and communication skills. Lastly, output helps drive second language development. So here are some tips for us teachers to help our learners. First, encourage your students to speak and interact in the target language. Second, remind students that making mistakes in their output is all part of the learning process. Third, have your students engage with the language in both active and passive study modes. Fourth, input can be enhanced if we teach our students how to notice the linguistic features it contains. And lastly, even input that is not fully comprehended will have some benefit. Still, comprehensible input is often considered superior. To end our discussion on this hypothesis, let me reiterate that through interaction, a learner's attention to something new, such as new lexical item or grammatical construction, promote the development of the second language. So, in conclusion, for input, second language learners need numerous amounts of input. Input needs to be at the correct level or slightly beyond the student's current level but still comprehensible. And noticing and attending to the input can facilitate language development. For interaction, the more learners are immersed in the interactional atmosphere, the better effects it will have on their language improvement. And for output, output is important in helping learners find gaps in their own knowledge. And lastly, output forces learners to create grammatically correct sentences in order to be understood more easily. That's all for input, interaction, and output in second language acquisition. I hope that you have learned something from my presentation. Again, this is Mary Celiz-Tangente, leaving you a Chinese proverb: to learn a language is to have one more window from which to look at the world. Thank you everyone, God bless, and keep safe.